We're here for another Monday, for another show. I'm so excited to be here with one of my favorite people, Glenda. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So we were planning on having you on this show. What was it? November?
Yes.
In November, and then you got sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was December.
It was
in
December.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that was nasty.
Yeah. Well, we're still not out of the woods with a lot of people in the winter season. So if you're listening to this in bed, tucked in, not feeling so great, we're so glad that you're here. And we're wrapping you in lots of love and a warm hug right now. I have so many things that I'm excited to share today with my guest, Glenda. First of all, y'all, she's cool as shit. Like she's one of the coolest human beings that I know, so much so that she can't get rid of me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we've been on this journey together for like, it feels like forever now. We've been friends forever, but maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I think so. It'll be coming up on 5.
5 years. Okay.
Mhm. Blessed 5, I tell you.
Totally. I feel the same way. Yeah. What I want to say to our listeners, first of all, as always, I'm so grateful that you've chosen to spend your time with us today. You have a million ways that you can be spending your time, whether you're driving, whether you're cooking, whether you're sleeping in bed, or just looking for some motivation in between whatever you're in between today. I'm really grateful that you're here. So I take your time very seriously. And I know this is going to be a great conversation. What I will say is with our show, the intro to the show says that we'll have a lot of experts on the show. And we do. I have a good handful of money experts. We have an episode coming out with one of my favorite women, Seisha, who is a financial advisor. And so I try to bring in different experts, depending on the time of year, depending on what's going on in the world. And also what I would say to the word expertise when it comes to money or life is that we are our own experts in life because of what we've lived through. And Glenda, I consider you in so many ways your own expert. You've worked really, really hard in these last 5 years to become your own like financial leader, champion of finances. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. So for everyone who's like, wait, I thought we were going to have experts. Well, yeah, we do, because every woman that's on my show is an expert in her own way. So welcome to the show officially, Glenda.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay. I am Glenda. I'm a mother of 4 and widow.
Yeah.
It's so strange to say that because it hasn't been that long. Whoever thought, you just never think of things like that. And I'm an herbalist. Call myself a wise woman. So that's my passion, and that's what I love doing. And I have 2 beautiful grandchildren that I adore, and I'm blessed to be able to live with and, participate in their life, and just, it's what I always dreamed of, having close family and everything. And we're getting there. It's a journey and a road. However, we are getting there. And thanks to your help, I'm doing a whole lot sooner than what I ever thought. Or I don't know, without you, I don't know if I would have even achieved what I have, because I truly believe that we need somebody to help us mentor and to be there and to show us. I mean, there's a lot we can do on our own, I believe, but it's always good to have somebody by your side.
Totally. I agree. So let's take our listeners on the journey of how we met. Okay. And then what I'd love to do is share your journey, because even in the last 5 years, you've been through a lot, but you have a whole life's worth of lessons and journeys to share to our listener today. So the premise to the show is, in particular, what I do know, and I always say this on every show, is that there's someone in this moment, whether they're listening live or whether they're listening to the podcast version of the show or watching on YouTube, is that they need to hear from you today. Not even me necessarily, but they need to hear something from you. And I truly believe that. And also for the younger women that are listening to this show right now, through your journey, I want them to know and hear that their life has just begun. Because when we're young, we don't always feel that way. And for you reinventing yourself in your 50s, now into your 60s, I think it's a really powerful message that like life is just beginning whenever you say so.
It is.
I
agree with that. Yes.
Totally. Okay. So just a little short history of how we met. And then I want to take the listener on your journey, because I hope someday your daughters listen to this and your grandkids can listen to this and really appreciate the journey that you've been on.
Mm-hmm.
So we met in a local networking group.
Yes.
Do you remember the actual event that we were at when we met?
I don't, because I followed you. I was like, oh, I was so drawn to you.
Yeah.
And there was something there and I sort of stalked you.
Oh, you did? Yes. I
did.
love it. So if you're stalking me, that's cool. We're going to be friends. Okay.
I did in a way. And it was like, I just knew I needed to meet you.
Yeah.
And, I made it happen.
You did.
And I was so scared. It's like, oh, because you're just so amazing and wonderful. And I really saw something and I was like, oh, I want that.
That's so fun.
Because you're just so open and so loving and compassionate and charismatic in that. And so I was just like, you had those qualities. And I was like, oh, I mean, in my age, I think you can always learn something from somebody, at any time. And that's the thing, we have to keep growing. We need to keep growing, because in my mind, I am not my age.
No,
my body's saying another thing like, whoa, whatever. But, so it's just trying to keep everything up together.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It does.
And so, yeah, so I did. And then I got up the nerve and I asked, I think I asked you for coffee. I was like, will you meet me? All timid. Because before that, my journey was just on that treadmill. I was on that treadmill and you gave me that hope, like, okay, there's more, I can do more, which I knew, I just didn't know how to get there, and what's the roadmap or what to do. So yeah. And we had that. And I was thinking about that because, oh my gosh, I think I told you probably from the embryo, my whole story.
On that coffee date.
Yes. Yeah. And you were so sweet. You listened to me and I was like, oh, and you just wanted a little snap. Gave you everything.
You're like, well, I started walking when I was 18 months old. I'm like, okay, we're in this now. Let's do this. No, I don't remember the whole conversation.
Yeah.
What I do remember about that conversation, we met at Coffee Bean in like town center. So anywhere, somewhere in Summerlin. And I remember thinking like, you were very shy and very nervous. And, I was like, all right, we're hanging out. Like, I don't know exactly what called me here, but here we are. But I knew even in that meeting that I was like, we're going to hang out. We're going to do this. And I didn't know what that meant. But at the time you were interested in money coaching. So we kind of walked down that path for a little while.
Yeah.
What was going on in your life at that time? I know what was going on in your life at that time, but for the listener, what was going on in your life at that time?
Right. I guess, when you first start out in your teens or your 20s and you have these visions and then, you have kids, you have family, then you need to work. And it just, things were not going where I always thought they would be, I guess. And so it was like, I ended up taking a part-time job at Starbucks. And it was like, oh, this is just temporary. Yeah. 12 years later, retired from there. It was just something because I was, I always wanted to do herbs are my thing, my passion, and I love them. And I always wanted to do that or some sort of coaching because I'm coaching, life coaching and coaching degrees. I have a couple of those. When I do something, I just do it big. Because nutrition, because of my past, is something that's always been big in health and, all that holistic thing. So I wanted to try and get that going in my life. However, I never could. I don't know. I think life also was going on with husband and kids, and now they're in their 30s. But at that time, and I just lost my vision and my dream. And so I was like shrinking, going further and further inside, and I didn't know what to do. And so when I was at my wit's end, I think when I met you, it was like, it was deep. And then one day I looked around and I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I? Who am I? And it's like I had lost myself because I'm putting everything into my family. And so that was, one of the things. And so it was just, like I said, I saw that something in you, that spark, and it was like, oh, there's something there. So that is, what I was holding on to.
Yeah.
Holding on, like, okay, Lisa, help
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So you were at Starbucks, and Starbucks really wasn't going anywhere. And I remember
No.
you just being really frustrated with Starbucks. And also, so this was like let's say it was 5 years ago. So you were 57 at that time, 56, 57
Something like
ish.
that.
And just like done. You were just done with Starbucks, done with the rat race, done with you were around like 20-year-olds that were like high on coffee all day long and like energetically just not a match anymore. Right.
Right.
And go ahead.
Well, it was just so unfulfilling for me. I didn't know how to get out of it, though. It was a source of income. It was pretty decent. And, so not knowing where to go next because nothing else was panning out. I just didn't know where to go or what to do. So that's why I thought, I do have the ability in me to ask for help, which I'm grateful for. I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything, just what I need to know when it needs to come. Totally. And I'm good with that, So that was just one of the things, and I knew it was the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was what we started working on pretty quickly, was getting clarity. Mostly I remember our first few sessions was like really getting clarity on your money, like what you were making at Starbucks, which was like nothing. It felt like you were working a lot and maybe bringing home, I don't know, are you comfortable sharing that? I think it was somewhere around like maybe $1,000 a month.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's a part-time.
Yeah.
It's a part-time job. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had benefits.
Yes. And that was really a big plus on that. Because at the time, bless him, my husband, he took care of all the household stuff. So my money was my money in that. However, it just wasn't enough to take me where I needed to go or what I wanted to do, so it was good, with him being there at that point.
Yeah.
And all.
Yeah.
It was helpful.
And you're living with your daughter and son-in-law and their kids. And like you have this family of support in the household, but still one of the first things I remember we were like, all right, GTFO, Operation GTFO out of Starbucks. Like, come on, we got to get you out of there. Cause you knew energetically it was just like not the right fit.
Right. Oh yeah.
At that point, what was it that you wanted to do with your life? And like, I know you're still working on so many of these pieces, but what is your real passion?
Right. Well, I know that I've always been drawn, like I said, to the holistic side of things. And I like helping people and women, especially, and, having 3 daughters and 1 son, in women, hormonal, right now it's what'd you say, epidemic? Is that, with the female problems, not being able to get pregnant and that's like a passion because I went through some things with that, in my early years. And so that's what got me into the herbs and the health and the nutrition and everything like that. That was a big thing that got me there. So that was my passion, is to help women.
Yeah. And you weren't doing
women.
that at Starbucks.
Yeah, not serve coffee and get people jacked up and high or caffeinated out and crazy.
Yeah.
So health coaching, I was looking help with you to also do health coaching and do more of herb things. Teaching, I think, has always been one of my things. And it's just not knowing how to do it,
right?
Where to go.
Yeah. A lot of people who have passions in life don't know how to make it an actual business or make money doing it. So what I think is so cool about your story is you were like in it. You've done the work. You have learned so much about money and building a business. And we're going to talk about what you were able to accomplish with your own line and your own product, which is freaking phenomenal. Let's take a step back really quick though. So to connect all of the dots for the listener, there was this journey that you and I have been on together over the last 5 years, and not just from coach and like, you're not from client and coach, but like just now we're friends. Now we
Mhm.
just love each other. We'd be friends. We're best friends. When like growing up and thinking about your journey with money, what was life like for you growing up and then becoming a mother financially? What was all that like?
Okay. Well, I've done a lot of work on this,
Mhm.
looking at this, because that is so important of how you're raised in that. And my daddy is from Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, and dirt poor.
Mm.
He was dirt poor, and cardboard walls. His daddy was a drunk, and there was always a tab at the bar, but there was no food at the house. And so my father is, he just grew up in that, where, what is the word that I'm looking for? I just blanked out. That it was like he needed to hold on to things.
Oh, he became a hoarder.
And
Not really.
not a hoarder, but not having anything.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're safe, and that so it applies to food and work hard.
Right.
You got to work hard. All those adages that you always hear: money doesn't grow on trees. And then, so frugal. Okay. Then
Mm.
that's one of the things I would say is like being frugal, because of scarcity. Frugal and scarcity. Those are two big words that I grew up with, I guess you'd
And
say.
your dad's in his 80s now, right?
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Upper 80s, going strong as ever.
Yeah.
Cantankerous. But and so he's still, to this day, like, he doesn't get how one of my daughters is paying $3,000 for this. It's a really nice condo, but it has all of these amenities and that. And he goes, "Why does she need that?" And I go, "Dad, you're not, that's their dream. They don't think like you do." And
Mhm.
there's such a generational age gap on money and everything else. And he's so tight-fisted. And if you he's wealthy,
Mhm.
of course, because
He
he's
worked
the
hard
saver.
for it.
He did.
Mhm.
And I'm glad he can do whatever he wants. And I'm so happy for him. And that doesn't mean that I want it or anything like that. I want him to spend it and enjoy it. However, he just doesn't know how to, because
Yeah.
of that mentality and that mindset.
How did that transcend in your childhood?
So it was, for me, and being a daddy's girl, for me, it's like wanting to please. I'm a people pleaser, working on that.
You're not alone.
And,
Welcome to all of us. We're all people pleasers in my world. Nothing wrong with that.
yeah. So I'm doing that. And so I followed him into appraising, and, just doing it. I am good. Oh, pretty much overall, I think I'm good with money. I can bring money in, and that what I was having issues with my husband of 40 years is that he was a free for all spender type thing in that. So I would bring the money in and then rebuild and different things like that. So
you had that sensibility that your dad raised you with.
mhm.
And I know, having worked with you, you like, the absence of money makes you feel really like scared and uncertain.
Yeah.
But then Stephen, on the other hand, was more free. And that for you was challenging, shall we say?
Yes.
Yeah, that was challenging.
Yes, it was.
Mhm.
It was. However, it's that overcompensation, I think,
Mhm.
because for me, it's like just having some there, but and if it is gone, I can bring it back in some ways, and then others, it's just such a paradox. I don't know how.
You and I are very similar in money personalities, and you like Jimmy was on the show just a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about this, where because I was raised that way, like very sensible. My parents are like super cheap chips. I have that sensibility about me, but I'm also delusional Delilah. So are you, where we think big and dream big, and we want to do these different things. And so that's like a push and it's a tug of war sometimes, because you want to do all these things, but then you want to also make sure that you are taking safe, calculated risks.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's where you were when we met. It's like you have all these things you wanted to do, but you also needed to make sure you had money. And then if Steven's spending all the money, you're like, and he was also in control of the money.
Yes.
Stephen was.
Yeah.
Was that your whole
that
marriage?
No, because he was just so loose. I had taken it. And then I guess in a way he sort of felt emasculated.
Emasculated.
Did I say D?
Yeah. Demasculation. The new
Something
term.
like that. And so it was like he woke up, and then so he took everything back, and then he took control of it. And it was like, okay, you're paying for it. That's fine. Let me do my thing. And it didn't make him happy, but it just made him, I guess, be him.
Sure.
So
sure.
one of those things. But so it could be frustrating too with not having control, but wouldn't talk about money. He was one that Stephen, my husband, was one that he didn't talk about it.
No,
because I can get deals and I can find things, and he didn't want to. He would pay extra for, like, I just paid off the water softener.
And that was like a thorn in your side.
Yeah, 6 years. It could have been paid off sooner. And he's like, nah, it's 57. It's like all the interest that you are giving them that I don't care. It gives me some extra money now. So he was just that way, it's so we would have our little thing about it.
Yeah. Being in your 50s, not knowing what you know now, what were some things that you felt really good about in your life in your 50s? And then we'll shift gears and talk about the things that you wanted to and inevitably did change. What was working for you?
To be honest, it was hard. There was a hard time for me because like I said, I had lost myself. I didn't know who I was. So having that little spark of hope that things would change and grow, like for me, getting out of Starbucks, I went to an herbal shop because that was closer to my herb dream.
Definitely.
So that was a really good thing because I didn't know what I was going to do after Starbucks, but once I had that opportunity, because at 12 years, at that time, I think they've upped it now. I have Starbucks for life. Woo. It's like, and I take it. I don't drink coffee all that much, but I'll get that pound of coffee. And I'll take that 30%,
right?
Whatever, I earned it. But so that was a time of really reflecting and like, who am I? What do I really want? And trying to soul search. And it wasn't easy.
I remember all those conversations, and this is
tears
and tears,
the tearful conversations.
I do. And this is what I'll say. The woman that is here today on the show is the woman that was like screaming to get out. And so if you would have known Glenda, and many of you listening to this show, probably we have a lot of women in the community who might be listening to this, who knew you back then. And even networking, you were I'm going somewhere with this, so follow me with this, but you were a very shut down version of yourself. And behind that shutdown was anger and a little spice, a lot of spice, actually, a lot of heart. And it was just shut down. And this is a very common experience for women in their 40s and 50s today.
Yeah.
That you lose yourself, and then generationally you were shut down. And then you were, having been married for 40 years, like in this marriage, and really committed to your marriage and your kids and all the things. And over the past 5 years, you've just walked steadily closer and closer and closer to you. And 4 minutes till break already. Geez, Louise. And so what I'll say is that for anybody who's listening, if that's your experience in life right now, that you're feeling shut down, that your voice doesn't matter, that you don't know who you are anymore, that you're lost, that your kids are growing up, that you don't recognize the life that you wanted, that there's hope.
Yes, there is. I can attest to that.
Yes, there's hope. And the one thing about you is that you always show up, even on bad days. There's every now and then, like we all do, you're like, I'm just not feeling it. Like I'm out. I'm going to check out and stay in bed today. But you continue to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about all the ways that you're doing that today. But it's like kudos to you, really, like a testament to you, and how really like your best is yet to come.
Yes, I do believe that. And I see it.
Yeah.
It is getting closer.
It's here.
It's
here.
It is.
Girl, I remember this like 2 years ago, we were practicing, you were going to be interviewed, or you did end up getting interviewed doing your herbalist work, talking about women's health. And you were like, so stage fright.
I
You were so stage fright.
I was about to pass out, I think. I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? That's an ego.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also wanted to get it right.
Mhm.
Because you do care.
Yeah, that perfectionism, it's that is in there, and I think it's just very common.
It
For
is.
some reason in this day and age, we just feel we have to know everything and be right. My 7-year-old now, she's 7. My granddaughter, it's like she will argue tooth and nail with you and it's like, no. And it's like, you have got to stop this. And I think all of my kids, having to be right. So letting that go. There was a lot of stuff I let go.
So I have these cards, power thought cards. Actually, Glenda gave me these cards from Louise Hay. Came in a beautiful box last year sometime. And we pull these cards actually often on the show, not every show, but pretty often for a guest. So this is Glenda's card today. I turn every experience into an opportunity. Each problem has a solution. All experiences are opportunities for me to learn and grow. I am safe.
Yes.
Dang, that's a perfect card for you.
They always are. I love it.
They really are. We were just talking on the break about anxiety.
Yes.
And you have had a lot of anxiety over the course of your life. Would you say that's true?
And at times. I'm, but I'm seeing it everywhere, just not me. And, it seems that we're such an anxiety ridden society, human beings are. And that's one of the things that I'm going into now is the letting go, I guess. Like everything will come. I'm not real woo-woo foo-foo, but I am that and I am and I'm not, I guess. So, but that anxiety, and it doesn't help anything. I'm seeing that in me, and that's really what I'm looking at, because, yes, I have been anxious, and, it didn't serve any purpose.
Where did it come from for you? Like thinking about, I remember in particular, the transition from Starbucks to the herbal store. You went from basically one minimum wage job to another. And the difference was, I think that at the herbal store, you were working more like you were working full time.
Yeah.
So you were in this, like, even though you were more aligned with the environment, and being an herbalist. So are you a master herbalist?
I'm certified herbalist.
And I'm
working on my master herbalist degree.
Right. So you freaking know your shit when it comes to herbs. So for anybody listening, if you want to know how herbs can heal your life, Glenda's your woman. You practice that, like you practice what you preach. So being in that environment, working full time, still you were really rubbing up against it. And what was it at that point? Even just, what was that, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
3 years ago. What were you rubbing up against in yourself at that time?
Well, knowing what I know and being able to express it. And that's, I think, one of the big issues that have come up is that I'm an airhead, Libra, but it's not like ditzy.
No.
I just come to conclusions different than what other people normally would. I don't think linear. I don't. And so for me to be me, I just got to let my freak flag fly. I guess I don't know, because I get there and Stephen's like, I don't know how. He's like, okay, but we'll come to the same conclusion. I'll just do this whole different route. And so I think with that, I was under control of somebody who, just different alignments. We were not aligned on purposes, agendas, that type of thing, and letting me be me. I was controlled to a degree. And so that was the big rub. And it's in the industry that I loved and to learn and everything else. However, for me not to be me. And that is what I've had throughout my life, I guess, is me being me and doing my thing isn't aligned with people that I have been around. And so that rubs. It's hard. Like I'm in this box and I'm squiggly.
I love that you said that, because that's totally what I was going to say is at the end of it, because you ended up leaving the store. At the end of it, you're not meant to be an employee.
No.
And you really don't like it when people tell you what to do.
No.
You don't.
No.
Yeah. And that's for our listeners too, because I think that's maybe part of why you felt lost. And you lost yourself, is that you were being like pounded into some, having to show up to work, having to do something that you could be doing on your own. Like you need the freedom.
Yes.
And you're so capable, but when you don't have it, you were like all pent up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, and then, and then we were working on me getting out, because all my finances, you had helped me to just do miraculous stuff with my money and give me a lot of freedom, us working together. That's just amazing.
Can you give one tip? So one thing that I taught you, or one thing that you learned that made a big difference?
Well, for me was the money tracking.
Yeah.
Money tracking. Yeah. Having it down, seeing it. And I'd love spreadsheets now. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
That's one of the things. I'm a creative. However, I do like logical. I can do logic stuff really well.
You're very visual.
And so the spreadsheet, that helped me tremendously, because then I didn't have to think, and there was no unknown of like, what do I have? What, where can I spend? I know what I can spend. I know what I need to do. And all my bills are marked out, pay off this, work on paying things off and stuff. That's given me the freedom the most. I love it. I look at it all the time. I'm like, oh, I look at my bank account every day. And, having money in there and seeing it is just, it's a good feeling.
Totally good feeling. So when we first met, you can watch the show on YouTube, and I have my little notepad. Glenda, when we first met, she was writing down all of her bills on a yellow steno pad, or whatever you call it, right? Legal pad. And it was a very painful experience, knowing, just reflecting on it. And this is a lot of people. So I'm not just talking to you, Glenda, right? But like you would write everything down, and then you'd have your bill, and then you'd like lose track, and then you'd have to write it down again. And then, so the worksheets, I don't use apps like budgeting apps or anything for that reason. The tracking is such a more active experience. And for you can really more easily see where you're going to be and all of that. So that was helpful for you.
Right. It does, because I can look at the sheet, and now even this week, some unexpected expenses came up, and it's like, okay, what do I need to do? So put something on a credit card for now, and then house pays it back. And I can see what the numbers and how much, if it is in the negative or how much is left over. So it's all visually there, and it's the easiest thing ever.
Yeah. You really embrace that.
Yeah.
Which is great, because there are some people at your age who would say, I can never do that. It's not possible. And you really sunk your teeth into it. You're so smart. And you're like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to figure this out. And you really have. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So just track your money.
Yep.
Track your money. And she has like different pots of money for different things. And that's helped you stay organized. That was a journey, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, I'm just really super proud of you for taking all of that on.
Yeah. I know. At the first, it's like, it was too much, but now it's like, I get it. And that's that being open.
Right. Being open to it, being open to possibilities. So do you want to talk about your product line? Can we do that? Everything. Okay. So you're an herbalist, and I had never heard of this before, which is yoni steams.
Yes.
Which is not exactly where you started, but it's kind of where you trended, because you saw the opportunity, you saw the market opportunity of it.
Yes.
So probably for like 2 years while you were working full time at the store, you were also creating your own product line.
Mhm.
Do you want to, I mean, you're not actively selling it now, but that was a dream that you had. That was something you'd
Right.
always wanted to do. What was that process like for you?
Um, because of procrastination, perfectionism, and that type of thing, and also um, you were my saving grace on this because if I would have done that, I don't know if I would have been able to do it, but some people that I was working with, they are in that business, they sell products and everything else. So they were guiding me, but they put me through a ringer that I did not need to go through. And nobody else in the store who put products in needed to go. They didn't have to. It was just the standard that they had for me. So it wasn't really easy, but I also made it harder because I know Lisa she helped me through this. And it's like, you really worked with me to help me to do it as easy as possible. And I put the roadblocks up, and now I look back and I see, but it was also very exciting. My product is in a store, and on the shelf.
What's the
and
product?
The yoni steams and the lingam steams. So
Yeah.
I had that, and I was working on, like I said, I've worked a lot with men because prostate for men is huge. It's a big problem. And for women, it's the reproductive system. However, a lot of women think, older women, when you say reproductive, well, I'm in menopause, and that it doesn't matter. It's the ovaries and that type of a thing. And that's for life. It's not because you're menstruating in that. It's for every stage. We need to keep herbs and that. So that was a big focus on that. So the steams were to help on that. And that's what I used. And that's what we decided on, and that I decided on, and that we worked for. It's a beautiful package.
It is.
Beautiful label.
It
and
is.
Also, I had started some other products. The only thing in this day and age now with shipping, that was just the whole thing, because I was selling on Etsy. But you have to pay so much if you're a small company.
Sure.
For shipping. So that was just one of the things. But yeah, it was a lifelong dream, making some products, and knowing that they're good products and that they work and all that was just wonderful.
Yeah. And you didn't give up. I mean, I know there's some very frustrating days, and like learning all the things, learning how to make your own labels, and just constantly for like 2 years, you were constantly stepping outside of your own comfort zone. And for all of our clients, everyone that we have the opportunity to work with in my world, it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
If you want something that's not familiar, if you want something that's not what you're at right now, you have to constantly step outside of your own comfort zone. And because you've done that, I don't even recognize the woman that I see today.
Yeah.
You're like a totally different person. Like she looks the same, but but you
internally different.
Totally. You're like so much stronger.
Yes.
Mentally, physically, everything.
Yeah.
And you advocate for yourself more now.
Yeah,
definitely.
Voice. Yeah. And I think a lot of that coming because of, I think the other thing that I would like to say working with you is that the stress for everybody, you're never too young to be prepared for somebody passing.
Yeah.
Do
you want to talk about that on the show?
Sure.
So
because I think that's very important.
So important. Yeah. So we had been working together for 3 years. And then COVID happened. Yeah. And you were working full time during COVID. And that was very stressful.
Yes.
And Stephen had been laid off.
Yes.
Right. So Stephen was home full time. And then was it September 2021?
Yes.
September 2021, the whole house got COVID. Pretty much.
Except for me.
Except for you.
I was doing my herbs every day.
That's right. But you were still working full time. And then everyone got sick, and Stephen ended up getting COVID and passed away 3 months.
A month after.
A month. It was a month.
Yeah, it was a month. He was in the hospital and fighting for his rights and all. That was just horrendous. But yeah.
Yeah.
So in October, he passed.
October 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And being on this journey, right? You were on this journey of creating your own thing, your own life, your own rhythm, your own flow, your own voice. You had a handle on your money.
Yeah.
And this was a big event. And so we won't hash all of the details out. And who you are on the other side of this, to your point, has been something I think that's really inspiring. You've just got to prepare.
Yes. Yeah, I would. That was the hardest thing. It was like we were just getting to a next level in my business and everything, and had plans, and then him getting sick and going in the hospital. And I stopped working to take care of him and also to go every day. And then like after, I was with this man for 40 something years,
How old were you when you met?
23, I think 22, 23. Yeah. And so it was just a shock. And then having to go through all that process of taking care of the funeral things and not knowing, and knowing him for this long and all that, knowing what he wanted, that helped. But to have something laid out and all, and so then from there, and it's like changing things over, and if somebody passes close like that to you, give yourself a year. I get why they always did the mourning for a year, because that's what it took for me, because you have your ups and downs, and there's so much. There's still a couple of things left that I need to do, like paying off that water softener.
High five, you did it.
That was and so paying off that, and, getting his name, changing names over. And my husband was just, it was those silent type, gruff, and loving. He just didn't know how to express his feelings, but he was so sensitive and all. And so trying to find passwords and trying to get in, I still can't get into his phone.
No,
nope. And nobody will, it's a brick. It's just, and it was a brand new phone, not having that. And so searching, so having things laid out. And I do tell people now, I tell the younger, like, get a will, have some sort of a will, have a power of attorney. Like we put our house in a trust. So that's safe for the family and all, and doing all that. And that was something, it took us
a long year,
time, walking through that. Thank God. I'm so blessed that you were there with me for that too. You've been there. And so have the trust, but like, what is it? The power of attorney that went for the hospital?
The health power of attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah. Medical power of attorney.
Medical one. Yeah. Definitely have that, and all of that. Just be prepared, because I was not. And it was so stressful.
It was. There were some lessons learned there. So I think this would be really valuable for the listener. As a married woman, you were already taking steps to become even, I wouldn't say independent per se at that time. It wasn't like you were like, I want to be an independent woman, but you really did want to manage your life and start moving in a more free kind of way. Like freedom was definitely a word that I would have, like, you were on a journey to be free.
Yeah.
Free from the man, quote unquote. Like, you didn't want to work for someone. You wanted your own thing going on.
Right.
You started to manage your own money and your finances in a totally different way. You got out of debt, which we didn't talk about, but you paid off credit cards and like really owned it. And then with Stephen getting sick, to your point, there were a lot of things that you still weren't prepared for. No. And as a wise woman, because you introduced yourself as a wise woman, there are things that you can teach other women now, having gone through that experience. And one of those things with Stephen was that you couldn't get into his friggin' phone.
Yeah. The password. You could just, we would have notes all over. I had to go through every single paper, and it's just like piles and piles. And there'll be a password here, like try it on this or that type of a thing. So I have a password book, it's kept in a safe place. Anyways, something like that. So as the trustee, the trustee of my estate and all, I've given instructions, and it's so much easier. And then so my father, who's 87, it's like he saw me go through this, and he was there, and he stepped up, and he was wonderful. He's been wonderful in being there and helped me out financially in different ways. That also has helped me get that freedom. And so now he has changed his wills and different things, gotten everything up to speed and that, because he saw what I had to go through. And he's like, I don't want people to have to worry about it, because it's horrible. I've seen, like, when Stephen's mother passed, it was like the fighting, the just greed and all of that. And I don't want my kids. So I took it out of my kids' hands. And so it's like, this is what it is. These are my wishes. This is what I want. And, it gives me freedom, and it's going to relieve them, because I don't want them to suffer.
Yeah.
How I did. And it's, it is what it is. You can have your, if you're upset, that's on you, but
sure.
It just is easier. So.
Well, I'm really grateful that you are sharing this, because these are the pieces that a lot of people in their own way, right? You even in your own way was like, this isn't going to happen to me this way.
Yeah.
And then
never
it
thought in a
did,
million
never
years.
thought, and it has, it's literally taken you, October. So almost, it was a full year for sure.
Yeah.
Before you were totally in control, because to your point, just to rehash for the listener, you had to change account names. And there were countless hours that you were on the phone getting access to accounts, getting accounts switched over. Some people telling you, no, you can't do this because your name's not on the account. Yeah. It was a lot of work.
It was.
And so by having the right things in place, having your significant other's passwords, having accounts in, joint names or in the estate names, that could have saved you a ton of time while you were grieving.
Yeah. On top of that. Yes.
On top of that.
And going through everything. Do you, let me answer this. I'm curious. Do you feel that a lot of people have separate things? Have you found out with married couples, or are there a lot of joint? Because I think in this day and age, there's a lot of separate accounts too. And
there are,
because I had a girlfriend who went through the same experience with her husband, who was in the hospital on the same day. He passed 7 days after Stephen. And I am so blessed that I had the support too, with everybody and everything that I had. And I guess she had nobody. And her husband, they had separate accounts. And so she was locked out of his. So she couldn't do a whole lot of stuff because of, her name wasn't on those bank accounts and stuff.
Yeah.
So that I'm just grateful that wasn't as how it is, even though Nevada is a, what do you call it? State, the
common property.
Yeah. And some, like the hospital, wouldn't give me records because that was their thing, because they didn't want people to see what they did. So there
for
were
a future topic.
Yeah. So that, but yeah. So now it's just really coming full circle that, I'm on my own in that regards,
You are. From a woman who 5 years ago had lost herself, had lost her voice. You, at that time, even before this tragedy, took it upon yourself to say, there's more to life. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to figure it out. And there were a lot of highs and lows in between.
Yes.
A lot of highs and lows. And that was the fight. That was the inner fight, your inner fight to make your life mean something. Here's where I was going with that. On the other side of Stephen's death, having done all of this work, I, as your coach, friend, I'm not here to take the credit, because you have done the work to become the woman that you were always meant to be. You've done that work. And because of that, knowing your family as well as I do too, you have shifted the trajectory of your daughter's lives and your grandkids' lives. You have done that for your family because of the work that you've put in. And it's sometimes a struggle, I would say. What do you want the woman who's listening to this, who is in your shoes, who was that woman 5 or 6 years ago that you were, what do you want her to hear from you today?
What is inside you, that little spark that really hold on to that and believe it, and don't ever let that inner child go, and just work on that and really go internalize, what is in there, and just never give up. Just never give up, and ask for help if you need help. We can't do this alone, and we're not made to. As human beings, connection is it, and love, and just always work towards that, and get out of your way. Get that out of your way.
Get out of your way.
Yeah. And just, just whatever that spark is, just never let it die out, and just keep going, So I think that was it, because I always have hope that it's never as bad. If you're anxious and that type of a thing, there's no need to be. We have to just let things flow.
Let it flow.
Life loves.
Life
loves you.
Life loves you. Perfectly said, Glenda. Life loves you. And I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for being my guest on today's show. I'm really grateful that you spent this time with us. I really hope that you've gleaned something from Glenda and her journey and her message. We barely scratched the surface, so we're going to have Glenda back sometime to talk about some more stuff. And I'm Lisa Chastain. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we've got a ton more stories like this and more coming. Continue to be on this journey with us. Let us know what you think about the show. We'd love any feedback you have. Thank you to my guest, Glenda, today. And we'll be back next week with a new guest, new topic right here on Real Money.